Ethics of Our Fathers, Chapter 6, Section 2, landmark statement, Ein lach ben choydin ela misha osek b'Torah. There's no man who truly experiences liberty and freedom, but one who's involved in Torah study and Torah observance. This is a curious statement. One might say, what do you mean? A person who throws off the yoke of Torah, that's freedom. Person studying Torah and living a life of Torah, there's rules and there's regulations. How is this freedom? It hardly feels like freedom. Our sages point out there are two terms for freedom. There's chafshi and ben chodin. Chafshi you might translate as free. I do whatever I want, I have no rules. Ben chodin means liberty, and there's a difference. Chafshi means a Jew, a person who says, I can do whatever I want, I'm free. I have no purpose, I have no meaning. So of course I have no rules, but what an empty existence. Ben chodin, a person of liberty. A person whose energies have been liberated, whose soul has been liberated. A person, not they do whatever they want. On the contrary, they might be very focused. But they're living out their destiny. They're allowing their juices to flow. They're truly living their destiny and living out their purpose and meaning. They're living liberty. There's a price to pay for liberty. You know, someone saw a great musician tying down the strings of her violin and they said, Maestro, you're playing music, it's transcendent. Why is it so important that you're tightening it? But of course, she pointed out, in order to reach the transcendence, you need to tighten it. Or think of the instruments playing together in a symphony, and it's gorgeous. You can close your eyes and dissolve into the music. It reaches up to the heaven. It opens your heart and your soul. And yet each one of the musicians is reading every note meticulously and carefully, and each one playing their part, and you wonder, why the detail? Isn't music about transcendence? It's artsy, it's heavenly, it's beyond. It's true. But there's a price to pay for liberty. There's a challenge to reach that place. There's a formula to find the place in the soul and to liberate it and to allow it full expression. Says the Torah, Ein lach ben choydin. There's no way to achieve liberty as a Jew unless I have Torah. Because Torah is the language of my soul, and it brings out and expresses who I really am within. And allows me to be the real me. So one person might be a couch potato sitting around doing nothing, taking in nonsense off the tube. They're free, hardly liberated. Quite the slave to the lowest common denominator of their wants and desires and laziness. Conversely, someone else has no time for wasting this kind of time and is running and is studying hard and preparing for a successful career. Hard work. That person, though, is liberated. They're liberated from the laziness, and they're liberated in the ability to achieve and become who they know they can be. I was asked by a college student after the first semester in college. She came back for Thanksgiving break. She called me up, Rabbi, I got to talk to you. And she came over to Chabad, and she said, you know, I'm very confused. I'm in college. There's so many things going on. It's very hard to figure out which way's up. There's too many choices. There's too much freedom, not that much liberty. A tremendous amount of confusion. And she said, by the way, Rabbi, you notice a strange thing. I noticed the Orthodox kids on campus seem to walk around with a little bit more of a skip in their step, a little more of a smile. And I don't understand it. They're the ones with all the rules and regulations. Whereas the rest of us, we're totally free. We can do whatever we want. We have no rules. And yet we can't seem to break a smile. And they who live with all these rules somehow seem to be more happy. How do you reconcile? I said to the young lady, who I happen to know enjoys a good sports car. Her father has a collection of cars. She comes home and she enjoys putting down the top of the car and driving down the highway. I say, I want you to tell me, what's the difference between driving a car on the highway, 75 miles an hour, or driving in an arcade, one of those make-believe cars? And she says, what do you mean, Rabbi? How could you compare? So I said, don't you understand today with the arcades, they put you in a leather seat, they strap you in a seatbelt, and the seat will tilt, and the winds will blow, and you can roll down the window, the cop will pull you over. In this total simulation, what's really the difference? And she looks at me, Rabbi, like, what are you getting at? I said, let me explain it to you. I said, when you're in the arcade, the whole thing is fake. There are no rules. And therefore, you could do whatever you want. You can go 100 miles an hour against traffic. You can fly into the billboards and come out the other end and see what happens. Because it's fake, there are no rules. Conversely, you're driving down the highway at 75 miles an hour. It's very real. And every move can spell life or death. I said, similarly in life, there are only two paths in life, two mindsets. That's all. One mindset is that life here is an arcade. We're just here by accident. We're a biological mistake. We happen to show up. God doesn't know my name. I could have not been. And I'm just here to have a good time. The only question is, how many tokens do I have left? So if that's the case, I'm totally free. Nothing matters. It's like lights on a screen. I can do whatever I want, when I want, where I want, how I want. But how depressing that my life doesn't matter a hill of beans. Conversely, the other view on life is, are you kidding? God created my soul with his own breath. He knows my name. There's only one of me throughout the world and throughout history. And I have a destiny that's important that will fulfill and perfect the entire picture of the Jewish people and the picture of humanity. And each one of my thoughts, speech, and actions affects the cosmos, affects all of history, affects the world, affects the patriarchs and matriarchs and all of my ancestors, what have you. So on the one hand, I'm driving down the highway. Every move can make a difference. Every mitzvah can bring Mashiach. Every negative is a terrible thing. It's life and death. Conversely, wow, how liberating that I matter. My life is real. It's a source of joy. There's no one truly free except the one who's involved as a servant of God in Torah and the observance of mitzvahs.
If you like that video, hit the subscribe button and notification bell below for hours of the best Jewish content online.